Ladies and gentlemen, Minecraft 1.16, the Nether update is upon us, and with it comes a batch of new structures. These are the Bastions, and there are also ruined portals. We're here in a Nether Waste only world, and we're taking a look at some of them now. This video is going to explain in excruciating detail exactly how these are put together. Now, Bastions are built using the jigsaw system. If you don't know how that works, I have a video about the villages from the Village and Pillage update that explains this. Basically, the very quick overview is that each jigsaw is like a construction kit. You start out with the one piece that has connectors where other pieces fit. Some of them will have multiple options, some will only have one, but at the end of the day you will get something that is structured, but also somewhat random in some choices. If you want the full explanation, I'll put the link to the village video that has a long section about how the system works in an iCard on the video right now and in the video description. Anyway, just like I did for those villages, I've also put together a test world where all of the pieces of these bastions are on display. I'm going to showcase all of those pieces soon, but to understand kind of how they fit together, I find it easier to build a sort of an intuition about how the resulting structures kind of look. So this one, for instance, is a bridge Bastion Remnant. You can see that it always has this bridge right here at the front, and that bridge always, to begin with, it has two floors. Oh, those were the days. So the bridge has two floors. There's the gold block monument up top, and there's this lower section down here. It always leads into this lava room with the flowing lava down the sides. That's a bit broken. And then the rest kind of connects on randomly from here. So we can look at these, and we'll see that these two pieces are like a core piece, but that the rest come in various different small modules. Those are the bridge types. You can see another one right over here. So if we go and look at this, we'll see that this also has that bridge and this room with the lava pillars and this monument out here. And again, the bridge is two floors. And if we go down here, we'll see the same room here, same lava flowing down here. So some of these pieces are the same every time. There is an additional complexity to this in that there are block processors that can run and degrade the pieces differently, but all in all they look kind of similar because the base structure is kind of similar. Alright, so now we are here in the Bastion display world. Here we have all of the pieces of all of the types laid out. This first row that we're looking at now is the bridge type that we were just watching. So you can see that the lava flowing room thing, one of the sides is here, and here is the distinctive inner room that we saw. So you can definitely see how these two get connected to form the main part. And then over here, we have sort of parts of the face and the connectors and the bridge. I'll link this world, by the way, as a download in the video description if you want to walk around or fly around, I suppose, and take more of a look by yourself. Here are pillars. These are basically the legs of the bridge, so to speak, and these are the sort of extra pieces that should get generated out to the side to form the sort of the width of the entire thing. So you can definitely see how these few pieces combine in a sort of semi-random fashion to create something that has the same structure always, but the details are different. This one is a treasure room bastion. They always have this basin with lava out front, they always have this bridge across and the two pieces connected. This always leads into a huge room with lava at the bottom, but the kind of extensions and the bridges and stuff here is different. So while villages start out with one piece and generate outwards, the bastions kind of start out with a shell, or many of the bastions at least start out with a shell and generate inwards. Again, these look very similar because the structure is very similar even though the individual pieces are different. Here's another example of a treasure room one, and you can see that it still has the lava basin outside, has the same bridge, although slightly modified, and the same big room here. There's basically a big box and it has the lava down at the bottom, and you can see the bridges and stuff are a little more whole and this one are a little more covered. but the structure is kind of the same. Alright, so the second one we looked at was the treasure room. This is the starting point for the treasure room. It's, like I said, just a big empty space, and everything else generates inside into this thing. So the bottom is this. It generates a big flat thing with lava, and then these are the different kind of treasure hoards that can generate into the center of it. And there's this stuff. These are connector pieces that just basically connect other things into this big empty space so that we get various different other pieces. So you can see we get these pieces that are basically pieces of the side, straight pieces. This is the bridge. Obviously this is just one of these, so the bridge over that lava basin always looks the same. And then we have these different pieces that are a little more variation on the different smaller sections. And then the bigger sections that make up the big lumps on either side. And then the lava basins themselves. And quite a bit of a variation when it comes to the slivers that can get generated into those two big sides. And then finally, these are the sort of end caps that get put on the end to make the whole thing an actual square at the end. And like I said before, there are generators that run on top of this thing that sort of process the blocks. And you can see at the end result, this whole thing, which is basically the ceiling, is peppered with holes, and a bunch of these blocks have been changed to be the cracked brick variants and so on. Alright, so this is the Hoglin stable version. To be honest, they're a little harder to get a grasp of, but you can see that it's basically a big box. And then next to it, this kind of perforated mess of floors and gaps and just small things connected together kind of haphazardly. And yeah, it's a lot of parkour in here basically, and you'll see why when we take a look at the actual pieces of this thing, I suppose. I made a mistake of this line, so the starting point is actually this one. It's also a big empty void, as you can see. And it has a bunch of these small modules that basically get chosen, one of these on random. They're very similar, but the end result of this tends to be a very like Swiss cheese-like thing, because you see that most of these have a bunch of holes in them, and you'll have to jump around a fair bit. So there's a ton of space just left in the Hoglin stables. You can see these are a little more covered, but basically the Hoglin stables are, at the end of the day, just a big, lots of these things chosen and put together, and then at the side of it we have these bigger sections. But mainly what the Hoglin stables becomes is a vast array of different small pieces where there's lots and lots and lots of empty space and just variation but not much structure. So often when you find the Hoglin stables, you'll find that they are just a massive maze of parkour. Alright, so here's our last type of Bastion Remnant, and this one is quite different. As you can see, you get these kind of towers around this central piece here. It's almost like a town square. Alright, this is the housing unit, and it's one of the most difficult to kind of grasp, at least it was for me, on how it generates. So it also starts with a big empty space. What these empty spaces are for, by the way, is to also make sure that the space gets carved out of the surrounding terrain, so that there's not just a bunch of netherrack filling the place. But basically, what this ends up being is this centerpiece right here, this jigsaw, is going to be one of these center things. So we start by putting this almost like a village square in the center. So one of these gets put in the center. You can see how many connectors they have out to the sides, and there we get these things, and you can see that these have connectors upwards. So basically what we get from that is we get a square in the center with kind of high-rise buildings, you could almost say, up to towering up above them. And then again we have these like separate large chunks. But the main parts of the housing units are basically towers of different small housing modules, and then this square with the nether wart in the center. Alright, so the second thing that we're going to talk about are the ruined portals. You can see all of them here. This is another test world that you can also download from the video description. And there are 3 giant type portals and 10 smaller ones. That's all the variation. There's no jigsaw involved. These are just structures getting placed. However, there is still a rule processor going on. So while you can see that these are, if these were the only things without variations, they would very quickly become repetitive. But there's a lot of block processing going on. So you can see when you find these in the actual world, some of the obsidian gets replaced with crying obsidian. Some of the surrounding blocks get replaced, and there are processor rules that depend on the biome that you're in. So for instance, when these spawn in the Nether, there's a processor rule that replaces the stone brick with the black stone, the iron bars with the chains, and sometimes the golden blocks can get replaced with nothing at all. So for these portals, there are not that much variation in the structures themselves. There's a lot more variation in how the block processors randomly go in and replace blocks, and sometimes not so randomly, sometimes depending on biome, especially the ones in the Nether, and sometimes just randomly replacing blocks. And that's basically it. Those are the components of the structures. Of course, this update is less of a structure-based one than the village and pillage updates that had all of the villages and also the pillager towers. But still plenty of jigsaw action going on, so it's pretty interesting to see how they're puzzle pieced together. Like I said before, if you are interested in these worlds, then feel free to download them, fly around, have a closer look at the pieces. I hope you found this quick demonstration of the components of the structures in the Nether update interesting. Thank you so much for watching. My name is slicedlime, and I'll see you later.